Hi, I hope you're having a good day. So, yesterday marked 20 years since my mom had a brain aneurysm that ended her life this month in February. And when you go through serious life events like that, you tend to reflect a lot on the things that are important from the past and the things that are important now and for the future. And being as though I'm 50 now, it is not lost on me the fact that my mother was only 53 years old when she passed away. And when I was younger, I thought 53 was an older person. But when you're 50, 53 is pretty young. So, anyway, I'm not sharing that because I am sad. I mean, of course, I'm sad. I lost my mom years ago. But what I wanted to share with you guys is the lessons that have come with the reflection of the things that you think are important that really aren't. When I think back to who I was versus who I am today, there's a big difference. And when you're young, you're a kid and you listen to your mom and she tells you things, you don't really see the value in it or think it's important. And you don't realize how important it really is until you get older and you experience life. When my husband and I were dating, my husband's aunt used to say to me, "You'll understand when you're older, you'll understand when you're older." I had no idea what she was talking about. Older when? I mean, I was 17, 18, 19, 20 when she was saying that. Was I going to be older and understand when I was in my 20s? Was I going to understand more in my 30s? Like, what point of life do you understand the things that people tell you that you will understand when you're older? That may sound crazy, but I think you get what I'm saying. So, I want to talk about things that are important to me now that I probably didn't have on my radar when I was younger, and I want to talk about things that I thought were super important when I was younger that are not important now. When I was a teenager in high school, it was all about my friends, being seen, being noticed, um, being pretty, being able to buy the same type of clothes everybody else was wearing. And of course, like a lot of girls, I thought I was fat back then, and only if I could be as fat as I thought I was in high school. I thought that was really important. I thought being invited to parties was important. I thought being able to one day kiss a boy was important. Being popular was important. Um, Having that group of friends that, like you do stupid things with, and who's mad at you, who's not mad at you, and the things that they got mad at you about, it was really silly. So I thought about that stuff in my teen years. When I was in my 20s, I was a young mom, and I thought I was a young mom in a blessed situation. Let me just say that I had our first child 2 days before my 21st birthday. I found the love of my life when I was 17. So where a lot of young mothers deal with things, it was a little different for us because I was always an independent person and a little older than my years. So when we got pregnant and got married and all those wonderful things that came along with it, we moved out of my parents' home. We got our first apartment. We ended up buying our first home. I think we were 23, 24. So we were very motivated and mature for our age. And I think that comes from being a part of a big family where there's a lot of small children. So the idea of being a mom in my 20s didn't scare me. But when I was in my 20s, as a mom, I compared myself to other people. What type of moms they were, how did they talk, what was the tone of voice that they used for their kids, and I thought that that was important. And how my children were dressed. Although my kids can look back at the pictures and videos of them when they were little and they would say, "Why did you dress us like that?" But at that time, they were dressed cute. They were always dressed cute. But again, if they go back and they'll look at me like I'm crazy when I say that. So I cared about how my kids dressed. Um, I cared about us keeping the lights on. I cared about them needing food. But some of the things that I also cared about were those negative voices that pop into your head where you think that you're not good enough. You're not the best mom, or, maybe your kid's situation. I keep getting a flashing light in here, so that's why I just turned the TV off. It had the screensaver on. Sorry for the sound. So I think that I cared about the happiness and the health of my children, but I also cared about what people thought of me as a mom. As I got older, in my 20s and early 30s, we bought our house in our 20s. Then I cared about what our house looked like. And then I went to other people's houses, and I could pair mine in my head and say, "Oh my gosh, why couldn't I keep my house neat and clean like that?" Or, "Oh, I wish I had something new, I had new furniture." And this was in my 20s and 30s, and I compared myself, and I didn't measure up in my mind on some things. So I always tried to do more, work harder, probably stress myself out, and no one ever tried to make me feel bad about those things. These are the these were the stories I was telling myself. I was not a neat person. So that was something that used to bother me, because growing up, I was a person who did a lot of the chores at home, and I really hated it because I did it under duress. It wasn't like now where, you don't feel like doing something. If your mother told you to do something, you did it, even if it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you're sleeping. So when I got older and had my own things, I kind of was lax about those things because I associated negative emotions around cleaning and taking care of that kind of stuff. But as I grew older, I found my own way, my own path, and it was different than how I was raised. Of course, I think we can all look back at things that happened with our own parents and say, "Oh my gosh, I am not doing that to my kids." So, as a teenager and an early young person, I had a relationship with my mother that was tumultuous at times, to where I'd have to protect my peace and just separate myself, because her and my dad had went through a bad divorce, and I was being pulled in different directions. It wasn't a good time for me mentally, physically either, because I got an ulcer over it. So I had to protect myself in order to be a good mom to our two girls at the time. But I thought what type of a mom I was supposed to be was the most important thing. I thought about, how my house looked was important. I struggled with my weight then. I still thought that I was fat. I wish I was as fat as I thought I was then. I digress. So anyway, I went through that. And I think I thought what was important is what other people thought of me as a mom, as a person, as a worker. Those things were in my mind, right? My 30s and 40s, I think I kind of evolved to that, because now our girls are older. And then the pressures that I put on myself was what kind of a lifestyle our girls were going to have, what they did for fun, and how were people treating them, and did they have friends, and all this other stuff. And that was in my 30s, right? So my 40s come, and I keep hearing my husband's aunt, she's my aunt, because she's been my aunt since I was 17. I claimed her as mine. But I hear her in my head saying, "Oh, Sean, you'll understand when you're older." And I'm like, what is it that I'm supposed to understand when I'm older? I'm like, I understand that I have bills to pay. I understand what stress is. I understand what responsibility is. I understand what tired is. I understand what overwhelm is. I understand that. Is that what I'm supposed to understand when I was young? Because I'm getting a taste of it, but I still wasn't sure if that's what I was supposed to understand. I am 50 and I still don't know if that's what I was supposed to understand. Anyway, now that I'm 50, I would love to have a conversation with my younger self and say, all the things that you thought were important, there's going to come a day where you don't even care. And I don't say that in a negative way, as I don't care. The way you look at it changes. So when I was young, my husband, who was my boyfriend there, I thought he was the most handsomest thing in the world. So did he. But he still is. the handsomest man in the world to me. But when I was young, I was worried about what things look like and the outside appearances, and I was doing those and concerned about those things for the wrong reasons. So now that I'm 50, I take more time to reflect on my mom in a sense of the lessons that she tried to teach me that I did not want to hear and I could not understand. Even with her struggles with my parents' divorce, I couldn't understand it because at that time I couldn't wrap my mind around being a woman who has raised a family and the life that you thought was going to be a certain way doesn't turn out to be the way it was. Regardless of whose fault it was or what brought them to that place, I never had the empathy or understanding of that. It was more about the anger and whose fault it was. And I carried that. And it took years after her death for me to sit back and say, oh, Mom, I'm sorry. Because now at 50, I realized, oh, she was probably going through hormonal changes. She, she was with my dad since she was in her 20s. And the way that she reacted, I did not agree with. And it was very hurtful to me at times. I couldn't understand it. But now that I'm a mother of 3 adults, I guess my daughter's an adult now. She's 19, gonna be 20, but a mother of 3 adults, I kind of look at where my mother was at that time of her life in a totally different light. So the things that I don't worry about now, I don't care if I have a lot of friends. And when I say I don't care, I don't mean it in a negative, malicious way. I'm saying that the number of friends that I have is not important to me. What is important to me is having friends of value. People who have your back. People you can call in the middle of the night and just cry. People that are not going to judge you when you're at your worst or you tell them your insecurities. And I always joke around with my cousin because my husband's cousin, who is my cousin, because I've claimed her myself, she forgets that she's related to him. But I tell her, I always say she knows where all the bodies are buried. And that means, metaphorically, of course, that she knows my inner thoughts. She knows the things that matter to me. And she knows she knows my insecurities. Because everybody has them, right? So those things, I don't care about the number of friends I have. I need friends of value. I broke my ankle. I'm that mom who never went away and left her kids. Not until they were old. I don't know why. It is just the thing that I felt that was my place and that there's a season for everything. And then when my girls were old enough to take care of themselves, then I would venture out and do more things. So I finally go on a girls' trip. I go on a girls' trip to Martha's Vineyard with 3 friends that I met through my daughters that I love. They're my sister friends. And we don't get to see each other all the time. We don't talk all the time. But man, when we do, there is no shame. We can share the worst of things, the best of things, and it's meant to be in love and support. And if you have people like that in your life, hold on to them because it's a blessing. But I didn't know it was a blessing as much until we went to Martha's Vineyard. We went to Martha's Vineyard on my first girls' trip. We went to Hyannisport first and then had to take the ferry over to Martha's Vineyard. So we take the ferry over and we are looking so cute. I have this big hat on, this cute jean jacket with the long dress, just looking the part, just so cute. We take the ferry over, then we take a tour bus. We saw where the Obamas lived, then we went and had chowder. And we're going to go to Martha's Vineyard, and right in the town square is where the Vineyard Vine store is. And my little one at the time, she was younger in 2018, obviously, she loved Vineyard Vine. So I'm like, oh my gosh, there's the flagship store. Let's go there and so I can get her something. Well, I get off the tour bus and I'm wearing my long, pretty dress. And then I trip. And then my shoe, because I had walking sandals on, a tree root got stuck in my shoe. So I lost my footing and I fell to the left. Boom. And I felt like something bad really happened there, right? And then I stood up again, but the tree root's still stuck in my shoe and I can't stand on that foot. So then I fall to the right. Tree root still in the shoe, broke that side of my ankle. And I screamed. I didn't scream. It was more like, oh my gosh, I think I broke something. And my friend Jay comes over and she's like, Shania, don't say that. Don't say that. I really think it's broken. I really think it's broken. And she looks at my foot and she's like, oh God, it's broken. Somebody call an ambulance, right? So the whole time my mother was a nurse, so I understand I understand the concept of shock and what it can do to you. So the whole time I'm trying to think outside of myself, like deep breathing, think outside of the injury that's happening. I can feel and see people coming around me, supporting me. And one of my friends is a nurse. But she's not just a nurse. She's the highest probably nurse that you can be, with a bunch of letters after her name. So she's just very high up in the medical field. So she knew exactly what to do, and she somehow, I don't know where she got a pillow or whatever she used, and she's covering my ankle, and I'm laying there, and I have my one friend by my face. My other friend's praying in the corner up by the tree where I think she's going to climb the tree, and my other friend is sitting there holding my foot together, because at this point it was like that, right? I have pictures. So my one friend's at the bottom. She's holding my foot. My other friend, Janet is her name, she is staring right by my face. And I'm looking at her and I'm focusing just on her. And I'm breathing. And I'm not crying, I'm not screaming. I'm breathing and trying to focus on just staying calm. And I'm looking at my friend Janet, and my friend Betty is climbing a tree. It seems like she's climbing a tree, but I can see her. I can see her that she is terrified, right? And I know she's praying because her faith is strong. And she's in the corner praying for me by the tree. Janet's staring in my face, and my friend Liz is holding my ankle together. And I just said to Janet, I said, is the bone exposed? Can you see the bone? And she says, no, you can't see the bone. And I'm laying on the ground with my dress on, and they're so good to me. They make sure that none of my goodies are hanging out. The dress is covering me, and there's a guy walking across the street, and he looks at me, and he looks at my ankle, and he goes, and I'm like, that's what you want to hear. A man walk by, look at your ankle, and go, like he was terrified. He's like, oh my gosh. So then the ambulance comes. The ambulance comes, they put me in the ambulance, and I remember this so vividly. The ambulance comes, and the EMTs were great, and they get me into the ambulance, and he says, how are you not screaming right now? I said, because I don't want to go into shock. I am focusing on something else. I can deal with this. Children break their ankles. If a child can break their ankle, I think I can handle it. So he's like, I would be screaming like a little girl. And I'm like, that's because you're a man. Me? No. I give birth without an aspirin. I will breathe my way through this, right? So we go through this whole thing. Go to the ambulance. Boom. We get to this little hospital. There's nobody in there. I swear I was the only patient in there. The poor tour bus driver is like having a fit. And it was so funny because when she was standing by me, she's like, I'm so sorry. And I'm trying to hand her a tip. And she's like, no, I can't accept the tip. I'm like, please take the tip. Because it wasn't her fault. But I'm like, please take the tip. She was very good to us. Even though she wasn't supposed to drop us off in that location, she did it because I wanted to go to Vineyard Vines. So I'm like, okay, here, please take the tip. And she's like, no, I can't take the tip. And my friend Janet whips her head around and she goes, take the tip. Please take the tip. So it was kind of that hectic situation. So we go into this beautiful little hospital. And, I'm just trying to be like, because my mom was a nurse, I watched her go through college for her degrees, because she went back and got a couple degrees. So she would always study with me, and we would talk about things like anatomy and physiology. So I was really engrossed in the experience of what was going on the medical side of things, and looking at the ambulance, because I've never ridden in an ambulance. So it was surreal to me, even though, yes, my ankle was a mess, right? So we get into the hospital, and I am a person who has never had a drink. And the reason why I haven't had a drink in my life, a real drink, people have tried to slip me something, but I've never had a drink where I sat down and said, oh, let me have a Malibu Bay Breeze or beer. No, not me. Because I come from a Black Irish program, Black Irish family, which I call my Scared Straight program. So I don't drink. So I've never done drugs. I've never drank. I'm as plain as it gets, right? So we get there and they gave me drugs that Prince had, and then later a drug that Michael Jackson had, which at the time I was so out of it that I really thought I was in the movie Mask, because there was like Technicolor and everything was crazy. Anyway, I can see in the hallway my friend Betty, and she's walking back and forth, and she's crying, and she's getting people in the hallway to pray for me. And my friend Janet, she's trying to talk to me. She's calling my family. She's talking to them, and she's, she's making me feel loved and safe. And then there's my friend Liz, who is a medical professional like nobody's business, and she's there. So they come in and they say, we have to set her ankle, and we think that she's going to have to be airlifted to Boston. I don't want to hear that, because I am my husband is my hero, and to be further away from him was rough for me. So the idea of, I'm not going to Boston. And again, I was totally drugged up. So if they would have taken me to Boston, there's nothing that I could have done. But if you notice anything about my personality, I love to laugh. I love to joke around. I love to make other people laugh. So we're in this situation, and it comes time for my ankle to get set. And I didn't feel it, but I'm laughing through it. So at the time, the doctors were like, okay, everybody has to leave the room. I'm like, my friend Liz stays. She's got the alphabet behind her name. She's staying. She's not leaving me. And she didn't leave me. But that night, so all this happens. I get my ankle set. My friend, the nurses and doctors and everybody in hysterics, because apparently I am a lunatic when I'm medicated. And my friend has a video of it. But when I look at it, it kind of gives me the creeps, because I never see myself out of control as to where I don't recognize the person that I'm being in this video. So anyway, the nurse was laughing so hard she almost dropped my ankle. She almost dropped my foot on the... It was an experience. It was an experience that I remember. But what I remember the most are my friends. So we go through that. And now it's time for us to leave the hospital. Now, mind you, we took a ferry to get to Martha's Vineyard. So I'm going to have to get in a wheelchair. Somehow my friends are going to get me to this ferry to go back to Hyannisport, to then drive the next day states away to bring me back home. And I can't walk. I think this was the first or second day there. So we really didn't even get to enjoy ourselves that weekend. So anyhow, it's time to leave. Would you believe the tour bus driver came back with like a Toyota Corolla? So there's me and my 3 friends, and the driver, with me with this huge cast on, trying to get into this Toyota Corolla. It was literally a clown car where everybody's like hanging all over the place. And she's like, I can take you home to my mom's house. She lives not far. If you want to spend the night instead of getting on the ferry to go back. And I'm like, no, thank you. I was high from the drugs, but I'm not crazy. No, I've seen too many Lifetime movies. You're not chopping us up and like keeping us locked in a room. Like, we're going to visit Norman Bates or something. No, thank you. But it was super, super sweet. And I, for a moment, I couldn't even appreciated this woman more for coming back to the hospital to give us a ride, right? So we get on the ferry, we come back. I'm in this hotel room. We're up the stairs. So it's not, I didn't have a wheelchair because I was an outpatient of the hospital. So there was no wheelchair. It was crutches. And my 3 friends getting me up the stairs where I could not touch anything. And what I remember the most is trying to deal with the pain. My friends were up all through the night, checking on me, making sure I didn't need anything, giving me my meds. My friend Janet, I swear she didn't sleep an ounce. And this is what these women did for me. Then we had to get in a car, so they had to get me all the way down these stairs to put me in this car to drive states away to bring me back home. And they were uncomfortable. They were trying not to hit bumps. They're holding on to me. It was the most humbling life experience because it was kind of like out of body. Like I don't know if you've ever had anything in your life that you totally did not expect to happen. Never in a million years did I think that I would go on a trip with my friends and break 3 bones in my ankle. Never did I think that, right? And of course I couldn't have surgery or anything, so they just supported me with an air cast until I can come home and find an orthopedic and all that. But my friends took care of me as if I was their child. So, I'm sharing that story. It is fun and exciting, and I don't know if you could see it through my eyes. It wasn't fun, me breaking my ankle and us cutting our trip short or any of that, or the pain, any of that. What I got from it was what was important in my friendships. That at my worst, who held me up? And that's what you want. So when I say that the things that I notice and care about at 50, I may not have cared about it at 20. In my 20s or in my teens, I wanted to have friends for my social life, right? I wanted to maybe be somewhat like my friends or have fun with my friends or be included with my friends. But when you go through something like that, life will show you what's important. Luckily, nothing that I went through was, life-threatening. I didn't have to get airlifted to Boston, which was great. My friends took care of me. And every time I think about it, it makes me want to cry because I feel so blessed. I don't talk to these women every day. They're like my sisters. Like we touch base. We try to go out to breakfast or things like that every now and again. But man, will I be there for them in any way they ever needed me. And I know that. And it was just such an eye-opener. I'm a person that if you go through a life experience and you don't learn anything from it, then you have wasted a very expensive education. So that experience caused me to not be able to walk, obviously. My sister was getting married that weekend. I couldn't attend her wedding, and I had to have surgery. Of course, so I had to end up with a plate and 9 screws. So that's where it comes from with my friends. So what I would say, when you're in your 20s, the things that you realize are important when you're older, you don't realize how important they are. It's not about the things that I thought it was about in life. So I fast forward to me having to get out of this car to come home. My hero is at home. That man will hold me up as he falls. This is my husband. He is strong. I swear he is a black MacGyver. If you ever watch that show, like he's that person, which is probably a lot of pressure that I think if he's in any tight situation, that's the person I want to be with. That is the Boy Scout. He will figure it out. That's just how I see him, right? So he's phenomenal. And I'm in the hospital. I have surgery. And it was after my surgery, and I was groggy, and I said, "Oh, excuse me, I have to use the restroom." So I don't know if they're called orderlies. Thank God I'm not that fluent with hospital jargon, but the nursing assistant or whoever she was she was going to take me to the bathroom, and her energy was just off for me, right? So at that moment, I looked at my husband. I'm like, he needs to take me to the bathroom. And she's like, absolutely not. I can't let him take you to the bathroom. You're in the hospital, and I'm responsible for you, for your safety. And I said, I don't care. That man right there is going to take me to the bathroom. He is going to take me to the bathroom, and he is going to put me on the toilet, and he will make sure that I am cared for, and he will not drop me. I don't want somebody that I know that I don't know. She's going to push me around. I was so worried about like hitting my ankle against the wall or something like that, like somehow just accidentally bumping it and someone saying, "Ooh, I'm sorry." But I knew that my man was not going to let anything happen to that area. And we joke around that, I say he's a little OCD or anal retentive or something. Not just, he is a man who pays attention to detail. So I I literally had an argument with this woman coming out of surgery that this man is going to bring me to the bathroom and you are not liable for anything. And of course, he took me there. I've had other surgeries in my life where my husband has had to shower, give me a shower, and drain, clean out my drains and fix my wounds, whatever. This is the man that watched me bring 3 of his daughters into the world. He is my ride or die, right? This is the guy that I thought was so hot. And when I was in my teens and in my 20s, I'm like, oh my God, isn't my husband handsome? He's got a killer smile. Oh my God, isn't he so cute? And I thought it was about that and the lust of that and the boyfriend-girlfriend thing, and then the young married thing, and then we become parents, and then it's the stress of the parents, and I'm going to be married 30 years. And this man is my hero. He is my best friend. He is my protector. And he spoils me to death. The reason why I'm sharing that is not to brag on that. It's not to brag about my relationship at all. It is just the fact that at 50, I know what's important. It's the person that's not going to drop me. It's the person that's not going to let me fall. He's going to do his very best to hold me up, even if he's on his knees. So that changes. I don't care what people think of me anymore. I can't believe I'm on YouTube, because if you would have told me 4 years ago that I was going to put myself in my house with my face, with no makeup on, hair not all curled and hanging down, and just me having a conversation, unfiltered, no edits, that I would be doing this, I would have never believed that, because I would have thought there's no way that I would make myself so vulnerable. And I realize that comes with age and maturity. So I think I understand what my aunt means. I think she means that at some point in life, you come to a place where you focus on what's important. And it's not all the things that you have. It's okay, what you have is you make the best of what you have. You may not, what is the saying? You may not have the best of everything, but you make the best of everything you have. I look at my girls. I want them to have men that love them at their worst, love them when their hair's not done, love them when they have their worst days, when they're bringing life into the world. I just want people in their lives that are going to love them. Never in my 20s or my teens did I ever think that would be something that I would come to as an adult. If my house is messy, my real friends can come over and I can care less if my house is messy as to where I would pressure myself. I don't care about that anymore. Because I feel like if the people that are coming here, they're here for me because they love me. And if they're not, bye Felicia, I don't have any need for that. At one point in time, I got caught up in the whole name brand. Well, Michael Kors is not a name brand, I'm told, anymore. But at one point in time, I liked that idea. I could care less about that. I'm more into having more money in my bank than in my purse. I don't need my purse to cost more money than I have in my wallet. I mean, there's some beautiful stuff out there, but if I can't put that same amount of money in my wallet, I sure as heck don't want the purse. Why am I sharing all this? I'm sharing all this as to tell you the importance of reflecting. We are not the person we were yesterday. I can tell you that one of the gray hairs that I have on my head today was not there yesterday. I can tell you that my muscle tone is not the way it was 5 years ago. I can tell you that my thought process changes. But losing my mom at 53 years old, 3 years older than me, which seems like yesterday, it makes you stop and think and reflect. Reflection. Look at yourself. If you get caught up in the muck-up that's the outside world, and you get caught up in things that don't make you feel good and don't bring you peace, me thinking I was fat. Man, I had a problem with that since I was 12 years old, right? I look at myself now and I'm like, I birthed 3 amazing humans. This body has had 7 surgeries, whether it's a gallbladder, an ovary situation, an ankle, whatever. My body is important to me. So now what I care about with my body is My health. Last week I was wearing a heart monitor and looking like the Iron Man. My concern now is my health, not how sexy I look in a bathing suit. I could care less about those things. But when you're in your 20s or even in your 30s and the world is telling you what your life is supposed to look like and be like, you cannot even fathom how freeing it will eventually be when you wake up one day and you realize the things that are important, and you don't waste any more of your energy or your life or your time on the things that aren't. And I have kept you guys on here for too long. It is 35 minutes. Again, make the rest of your day the best of your day. And if this video brings you some value, then I'm happy. Other than me just sitting here mumbling, talking to this camera. I hope I've connected to you in some ways, or even giving the opportunity to think of a time in your life that you just knew that this is how the world went and this is how life was supposed to be. And as time went on and you matured, you got to see things from a different perspective. Please be sure to comment. I hope you like this video. I hope you subscribe to my channel, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.